Okay, we have some breaking news for you right now. This is from President Trump on Truth Social. Our wonderful White House press secretary and one of my most trusted aides, Karoline Leavitt, will be departing her role at the end of the month so that she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. A decision I totally understand and respect. Karoline will now be one of my top outside advisors and an influential voice within the Republican Party as we work to defy history and conclusively win the midterm elections. Karoline has been a real leader in the White House and has done a phenomenal job fighting for justice, liberty, and freedom since 2018, including our historic re-election campaign, he writes, of 2024. Karoline has been one of the best White House press secretaries in the history of the office. Thank you, Karoline, for a job well done, President Donald J. Trump. Karoline, obviously, Leavitt had her second child over the summer. She took a little bit of time off to be with that baby. It sounds from what the president is saying that she will still be quite involved as an advisor and as we move towards the midterms. But from what I'm picking up from what he says here, it sounds like not in the day-to-day White House press office briefings, which really she has become legendary in carrying out. Because she has, when she was on leave, they brought in Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and Scott Bessent, some of the cabinet members to replace her because she's a very strong advocate for the president in that press room. I think that's undeniable. We're going to have more for you on this right after the break.
And that reveals that it's not just something that can be laughed off as an indulgence of the past. It actually hasn't ended. It's going to march forward into the future under any banner, whatever that banner may be, woke 1.0, woke 2.0, or socialism. It marches into the future. Before we go, Stephen, I do want to ask you about the news of the day. President Trump posted today, our wonderful White House press secretary and one of my most trusted aides, Karoline Leavitt, will be departing her role at the end of the month so she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. A decision I totally understand and respect. Karoline will now be one of my top outside advisors and an influential voice within the Republican Party as we work to defy history and conclusively win the midterm elections. So, Stephen, what do you have to say about the departure of Karoline Leavitt?
Well, look, it's personal for me because Karoline is not just a colleague, not just someone for whom I have endless respect and admiration, but she's a close friend, someone I've got to know well, someone that my family has gotten to know well, someone that has really been in every way a source of joy in so many of our lives. Professionally, her credentials, her accolades, her achievements are second to none. Her job that she has performed as White House press secretary, the word exemplary doesn't even begin to cover it.
Big news from the president out of the White House. He just announced that Karoline Leavitt will be leaving her role as press secretary at the end of the month so that she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. As the president says, he says that she will now be one of my top outside advisors, no doubt. So senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich joins me now with the breaking details. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Martha. Huge news and unexpected news, obviously. Karoline just put out an additional post saying that serving as the White House press secretary of the last year and a half has been the honor and adventure of a lifetime. She expresses her gratitude to the president for the privilege of speaking on his behalf at the podium and talks about how challenging it has been working in one of the most demanding and important jobs while also welcoming two young children in recent years. You know, she is the youngest press secretary in history, huge achievement in and of itself, and was a very effective messenger for this administration and also for reporters. Very accessible and in the room with the president as opposed to under the Biden administration, for example, when we would try to get answers from Karine Jean-Pierre, often it was apparent that she wasn't as close to the decision makers and able to give us valuable information as Karoline has been in her time here. So this is going to be a big loss for this White House. Obviously, there have been others who have tried to sort of fill the gap during the time she was on maternity leave. You had a number of cabinet secretaries deliver a few briefings, but nobody did it as regularly or as effectively, really, as Karoline in being able to answer questions on a variety of topics and whatever the news of the day was. So this is going to be a big change here at the White House, and obviously we are looking into how this role might be filled. In the meantime, she does express, and the president in his post seems to indicate as well, that she will continue to play a role, a support role as an outside advisor. But this is all just breaking in the last few moments, Martha.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm going to bring in Kellyanne Conway, former senior counselor to President Trump, president of KA Consulting, Fox News contributor. So this is a surprise, Kellyanne. What's your reaction to this news?
I'm surprised, Martha, but I so respect Karoline. Jackie and you put it perfectly. She will go down as one of the best White House press secretaries, definitely for her work behind the podium, but her work behind the scenes that the public doesn't always see. You know, it's a very small percentage of the press secretary's job to go in front of that podium and address the nation on behalf of the president of the United States. The rest of the time, you're fielding questions, you're batting down rumors, you're making sure that you're speaking on behalf of the president with competence and confidence. That means you're talking to a very large cabinet and senior officials, all of whom have very big personalities and big portfolios of their own. I think what the president's Truth Social post could not have been more gracious and more loyal and more lovely about Karoline's tenure and what she means to him, even in going forward. He made very clear, and we know, Martha, this is not always the case with people departing the Trump White House. He made very clear that she is still in his orbit. She's an incredibly effective team player, part of his inner circle, and that she's going to help with these midterms where other people have left the White House, like James Blair, his political guru, Jason Miller, Johnny DeStefano are helping too. These outside advisors are trying to defy political gravity. We all respect Karoline so much as a press secretary, as a professional woman, as a mother. You know, it's your 30th birthday, people will say, so what are your goals? She's going to be able to say, I run for Congress, I was press secretary for a campaign, I had 2 children, but I do want to say, Karoline and I have had this conversation many times. What a great place the Trump White House is for working moms. Had he not been such a wonderful boss to working moms, to Ivanka Trump, Brooke Rollins, Mercedes Schlapp, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, now Karoline Leavitt, me, others, that you wouldn't be able to have those pressure cooker jobs. So she goes with her head held high, a wonderful tenure, and the president's confidence moving forward.
Absolutely. And he makes it clear, and you make a great point about what he said about the RNC connection and trying to defy history with these midterms. There's no doubt in my mind that Karoline Leavitt is going to continue to be involved, but not having to be in the day-to-day crush will give her a little bit more space to spend time with her kids. So, but I have no doubt that she's going to be a major player for many years to come. Thank you very much, Kellyanne. Great to have you with us, and my thanks to Jackie Heinrich, who joined us from the White House as well. Big news from the president out of the White House. He just announced that Karoline Leavitt will be leaving her role as press secretary at the end of the month so that she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. As the president says, he says that she will now be one of my top outside advisors, no doubt. So senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich joins me now with the breaking details. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Martha. Huge news and unexpected news, obviously. Karoline just put out an additional post saying that serving as the White House press secretary of the last year and a half has been the honor and adventure of a lifetime. She expresses her gratitude to the president for the privilege of speaking on his behalf at the podium and talks about how challenging it has been working in one of the most demanding and important jobs while also welcoming 2 young children in recent years. You know, she is the youngest press secretary in history, huge achievement in and of itself, and was a very effective messenger for this administration and also for reporters. Very accessible and in the room with the president, as opposed to under the Biden administration, for example, when we would try to get answers from Karine Jean-Pierre, often it was apparent that she wasn't as close to the decision makers and able to give us valuable information as Karoline has been in her time here. So this is going to be a big loss for this White House. Obviously, there have been others who have tried to sort of fill the gap during the time she was on maternity leave. You had a number of cabinet secretaries deliver a few briefings, but nobody did it as regularly or as effectively, really, as Karoline in being able to answer questions on a variety of topics and whatever the news of the day was. So this is going to be a big change here at the White House, and obviously we are looking into how this role might be filled. In the meantime, she does express, and the president in his post seems to indicate as well, that she will continue to play a role, a support role as an outside advisor. But this is all just breaking in the last few moments, Martha.
Yeah, absolutely. You make great points. And I think, when you talk about Karine Jean-Pierre, and I'm just thinking back to those news conferences, she would come out with a huge binder, and when asked a question, she would flip through the binder to try to find, that subject and try to answer the question. But I have to say, in most cases, it was deflected. And Karoline Leavitt is clearly, as you say, Jackie, had a very strong relationship with the president. She was by his side all the time, was very deft at answering questions. And I think she also, found that really good balance with reporters. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of tension between press corps and press secretary. I think that's sort of the nature of the game in many ways. But, I think of people like Tony Snow. I think of people who have had that kind of rapport with the press where they were able to have a laugh. She's very personable. She's friends with pretty much everybody who works the beat in one way or another. She's going to be very, very hard to replace. She's super articulate. And as you point out, the youngest press secretary in history. A lot of people questioned this choice when it was made because she was so young. She ran for Congress in New Hampshire before she started to work with the Trump team. But, we're just covering this as it's coming out. But any other thoughts on that, Jackie?
Yeah, I mean, she could probably go into whatever job she wants at this point. She has proven over and over again that she is an effective communicator on any issue that comes before her. Obviously, there's a lot of preparation, and she shows that she does that prep work to be able to answer reporter questions, not just on camera, but also be helpful behind the scenes. She is responsive, and she has, a group of people that work alongside her who help facilitate that. But she really leads all of those people, and has been a good leader, a good manager in her office space as well. This is these are qualities of someone usually much greater than her age. So she brings a lot of talent to this role and will be difficult to replace. Yeah, no, she is definitely mature beyond her years, and she's making a choice that is hard, I think, for all working women, but understandable. A year and a half in that job is probably equivalent to 5 years in any other job, at least. Maybe there's no comparison, honestly. We all know that President Trump works 24/7, and there are we heard Marco Rubio say that in a podcast yesterday. Basically, the weekends might slow down a tiny bit, but that's it. Otherwise, it's pedal to the metal pretty much 24/7, and she has rolled with that in a gracious and very efficient, professional manner throughout. Jackie, stand by if you would. We have some breaking news for you right now. This is from President Trump on Truth Social. Our wonderful White House press secretary and one of my most trusted aides, Karoline Leavitt, will be departing her role at the end of the month so that she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. A decision I totally understand and respect. Karoline will now be one of my top outside advisors and an influential voice within the Republican Party as we work to defy history and conclusively win the midterm elections. Karoline has been a real leader in the White House and has done a phenomenal job fighting for justice, liberty, and freedom since 2018, including our historic re-election campaign, he writes, of 2024. Karoline has been one of the best White House press secretaries in the history of the office. Thank you, Karoline, for a job well done, President Donald J. Trump. Karoline, obviously, Leavitt had her second child over the summer. She took a little bit of time off to be with that baby. It sounds from what the president is saying that she will still be quite involved as an advisor and as we move towards the midterms. But from what I'm picking up from what he says here, it sounds like not in the day-to-day White House press office briefings, which really she has become legendary in carrying out. Because she has, when she was on leave, they brought in Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and Scott Bessent, some of the cabinet members to replace her because she's a very strong advocate for the president in that press room. I think that's undeniable. We're going to have more for you on this right after the break.
I formally accept the Democratic nomination. People try to define this election as a battle between the left and the center. That narrative misses the entire point of what we're doing.
These were moonshot ideas when we started fighting for them, but we knew that they were worth the fight. We just can't hand Donald Trump another Senate seat.
I want to thank President Trump. This runoff will be a sprint.
Socialism and communism is our battle.
Well, wrap up of elections last night. A couple of surprising results, at least one big one in Wisconsin, the gubernatorial race on the Democratic side. You heard from the candidate who pulled out a squeaker, Crowley, and there you see it. But Hong, going into this, the polls had her up double digits. Some had it 22 points in recent weeks, and that was it was wrong. In Minnesota, Flanagan beats Craig. This is another progressive pickup. But New York Times says this: a stunning loss in Wisconsin shows the limits of the left. Francesca Hong, a Democratic socialist, entered Tuesday's evening's Wisconsin primary for governor as the favorite with lead in the polls. Democratic socialists this year have won a mayoral primary in Washington, House primaries in New York, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Denver, but the force of that wave could not extend beyond such urban cores, at least not in the swing state of Wisconsin. We'll start there with our panel. Fox News contributor Molly Hemingway, Yemisi Egbewale, former chief of staff and advisor to the Biden White House press office, and Josh Kraushaar is a Fox News radio political analyst. Molly, there are limits, obviously, and we've seen the expansive efforts by Democratic socialists just turned in Wisconsin.
Well, the situation with the socialists getting so much headway in recent elections, but falling a little bit short in Wisconsin, and it really was only a little bit short, does show that there might be some limit to what they're capable of. But it's also this narrative that moderates are somehow winning or being able to push back. That's kind of a delusional narrative, too. I mean, this guy who won, Crowley, is only a moderate if we've redefined moderate to mean doesn't want to ban Thanksgiving. But that's not what moderate means. And his policies are in many cases just as radical as that of the more Democratic socialist aligned person he defeated, whether that's support for BLM, claiming that racism is a public health crisis, opposing funding for cops. He also had this situation where he accidentally oversaw the entire county of Milwaukee, the government employees losing their health insurance because of a failure to do paperwork. So I think we have to have words mean something, and moderate does not mean candidates like this.
Turns out pro-Thanksgiving voters are actually pretty strong caucus. Josh?
Apparently woke 1.0 is over, but the woke 2.0 is still very much alive and well. Look how much effort was needed in Wisconsin for Democrats to stop Francesca Hong from winning, and she only lost by less than a point in the margin. The governor, I think to his credit, Tony Evers, campaigned aggressively for Crowley. You didn't see Bernie Sanders, you didn't see AOC endorse the socialist in this race. They understood how bad of a campaign she was running. But that's not going to be replicated in a lot of other places. And Minnesota, I think, is the interesting counterexample where you have a very mainstream Democratic Congresswoman, Angie Craig, battle-tested, won tough races, moderate, and she got crushed. She lost by 20 points to a very left-wing lieutenant governor who has even clashed with Tim Walz, no less, having issues about welfare fraud issues in the state. She is woke 1.0. She's taken a lot of culturally very left positions that are going to come back to I think, come back to haunt her in the campaign.
Yeah, there's a lot of analysis of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's interview over the weekend, where she kind of walked back some of the things she talked about early in her career in Congress. Is that the message that's going out of the Democratic Party? Do you think that we need to dial this back?
I think, if anything, showing that Francesca Hong couldn't pull it out in Wisconsin shows that you have to have people who are more moderate and therefore competitive in these swing states. David Crowley is someone that I think is very balanced. He didn't have a lot of past statements that he had to defend. He got to run on a record. And look, Wisconsin Democrats are going to make Tom Tiffany defend his record. Tariffs have hit Wisconsin in a very bad way. In 2024, there were 2 Chapter 12 bankruptcies of farms. In 2025, there were 16. And of course, not all of that is status tariffs. There's high commodity prices and interest rates. But Tom Tiffany's going to have to defend a record. And if some people on the Democratic side just have to defend some tweets, I think they might come out better in that situation.
Well, in Flanagan's case, she also supports the transing of children, and she's worn a shirt encouraging violence against people who oppose transing children. That's pretty radical to have to defend.
I think Amy Klobuchar, though, is a buoy for Minnesota. She's incredibly popular. I think she'll win by a wide margin. And wanted Angie Craig, but I think she might carry Peggy Flanagan.
Yeah, Michelle Tafoya won the Republican side of that Senate race, so that's going to be interesting to watch. All right, this case, the Attorney General coming out on this Chinese effort across the board for fake marriages. Take a listen.
Today we are announcing the arrests and unsealing of an indictment charging 11 individuals for allegedly overseeing an extensive, decade-long marriage fraud scheme involving more than 1,000 sham marriages between Chinese nationals and United States citizens. These facilitators employed attorneys, tax preparers, and marriage officiants.
Yeah, so the foreign nationals paid facilitators, according to the statement, as much as $100,000 for a sham marriage, assistance obtaining lawful permanent resident status. In total, the defendants and their co-conspirators recruited hundreds of U.S. citizens to enter into sham marriages. Josh, this is kind of interesting.
It is a serious case. It's one that suggests deep corruption. It is a big priority for Todd Blanche. It's his, now he's permanently on as Attorney General, and it's a case that I think has a lot of political legs, and there's a lot more to come. So this is the first wave, but the worry about U.S. citizens being marrying non-citizens and using it for illicit means, it's a very, very concerning issue, and it raises national security questions as well as immigration
Exactly.
questions.
The national security report, I was surprised, Yemisi, that it didn't come up in the press conference about, is there a tie to CCP? China is doing a lot of things.
This is a smart case for Todd Blanche to come out of. It was very contentious for him to get this nomination in the Senate. And I think it's a very strong footing. More and more you see concern from constituents and also members of Congress on China's impact on AI, technology, and also national security. This is going to be really big.
Yeah. Lastly, Karoline Leavitt announcing she is leaving at the end of the month. It was kind of a surprise.
A bit of a surprise, and she has done, I think, a remarkable job. A lot of people who didn't think she would be up to the task were impressed by how she handled things. I do want to say, I think it's very much an inspiration that she has done it for the reason she's doing it. You hear people all the time say, oh, I'm taking time off for my family. In her case, everyone knows it's true. She has 2 young children, and she said her kids need her with them at home, or you need to be there. She needs to be there with her kids at home, and that is true. Young children do need their mothers there, and it's a really inspiring thing to see her do it, to give up this really big job for that more important task.
Yeah, if you read between the lines of Laura Trump's interview with her, she kind of forecast this. Take a listen.
I literally only have time for my children and my husband and work, and everything else is just on the back burner right now, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Maybe during nap time is when I'm really putting in the work here at the office, and then, trying to get home early when I can. And I'm very grateful to the president for understanding that and for empowering so many working mothers.
And the president put out a great statement, Yemisi, and you've been in press offices. It's a all-consuming job, and so she's stepping aside for the family.
Yeah, and your kids are going to college, Brett, so maybe you might have some time to do another job.
There you go. No, I think I'm done. Josh, last word on Karoline Leavitt.
Look, it's very heartwarming. She's putting her family first, but she had a very close relationship with President Trump. It's going to be hard to find someone who's as trusted in the comm shop, and it'll be interesting to see who gets that job.
Yeah. Okay. Congrats to her. Thanks, panel. And finally tonight, a special report salute.
There was a manhole right above where Teddy was, so we safely removed it with tools from our patrol vehicle and was able to lower myself down into the hole.
San Diego County Animal Control officers came to the rescue Monday after finding a small dog that had been missing for more than 30 days. Teddy was stuck in a storm drain, underweight, hungry, dirty, unable to climb out. That same day, Teddy's owner happened to come to the shelter to report her dog missing. The shelter says when Teddy saw her owner, she immediately started wagging her tail, howling with joy. Good job there in San Diego. Tomorrow on Special Report, we discuss the economy with Austin Goolsbee, Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago President and CEO, former Council of Economic Advisors Chairman. Remember, if you can't catch us live, set your DVR 6 p.m. to East, 3 p.m. on the West Coast. You can follow me on TikTok, X, and Instagram at Brett Baer for exclusive behind-the-scene content. Thank you for inviting us into your home tonight and every night. That's it for this Special Report. Fair, balanced, and still unafraid. The Ingram Angle starts in 7 seconds.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.